Friends and patriots, welcome and good evening to you. My name is Ajuri Ngelale, and I come to you from the nation's capital. This is Eagle Eye. On this edition of the program, we are thrilled to take you all access into the throes of the nation's topmost legislative body, the National Assembly, as we sit down with the chairman of the National Assembly and the president of the 9th Nigerian Senate, Dr. Ahmad Ibrahim Lawan. With critical developmental issues on the table, ranging from executive-legislative relations, economic development, crucial new laws, cost of governance, and national security, amongst others. You do not want to miss what the Senate President has to say in this world-exclusive interview. With this special one-on-one edition of the program on tap, we will present our briefing memoranda in subsequent editions. Without further ado, let's head to the National Assembly. Plenary will soon commence on this even Tuesday morning. The sirens signal the landing of the chairman of the National Assembly, Senate President Ahmad Lawan, and by extension, the commencement of official business for many. Following the same path daily into the Senate President's office, he is first welcomed by the Senate Majority Leader. Always consulting with senators before plenary, the door is now closed to the uninvited.
On the same page. So, yeah.
Steeped in tradition, this room has seen many men claim the heights of power here with intrigues, both unsettling and even unseating many. This president of the 9th Senate is having no such trouble. Having claimed the office in 2019 with huge bipartisan support, this mace leaves no room for misinterpretation about where the power truly lies. Each morning before plenary and in order of hierarchy, the Senate leadership followed the mace in a single file to the chamber.
Mr. President. Mr. President. That was the aide to president. How are you doing? My flag. Mr. President. That was the aide to president.
With many national issues on his daily agenda, the Senate President opens up. Your Excellency, Mr. Senate President, it's truly a privilege and an honor to have you on Eagle Eye. Thank you very much for being a part of this.
Thank you very much.
As the chairman of the National Assembly, I would be remiss not to mention to you, Your Excellency, that when I go out on TV stations, mostly on radio, and I'm dealing in Q&A sessions with the Nigerian public, a lot of what I hear related to the workings of the National Assembly is this idea, this public perception out there that we're not dealing decisively enough with the cost of governance. And there's this idea that the National Assembly is essentially a place where there's a lot of waste or a lot of patronage going on. That's some of the things that we hear on radio. So I wanted to give you a chance to respond to Nigerians who suggest that National Assembly can do more to cut down on the cost of governance in the country.
Well, I like that. It's a very good question, and I like that question. If you had listened to my presentation at the maiden edition of the parliamentary lecture series, which I delivered in the ICC here in Abuja, I laid bare what the National Assembly earns and how it operates. Because there is that misnomer. The moment you mention cost of governance in Nigeria, majority of the people will say, National Assembly, they have jumbo pay, all the money of Nigeria is in the National Assembly. And I categorize the people who hold this opinion into 3 or even 4. One, there are those who are genuinely concerned, but not properly informed. And they are very concerned because they think, well, we have to do something to get money out of the National Assembly. Secondly, there are those who are informed, properly informed, that is not the correct situation, but they are mischievous. They are mischievous. They don't want the National Assembly the way it is constituted. Some maybe they don't even want the National Assembly at all. Thirdly, you have people who feel, okay, what we need to do is, why don't you even make the National Assembly a part-time parliament and so on and so forth? Because the funds are just too much. You can see there's that patriotism in the people, that all they want and care for is, let's have a National Assembly that works with people but doesn't go up so much. But on the whole, whether people are in opposition or they are simply people who are concerned, we owe Nigerians an explanation. Let me say that the National Assembly's budget for this year is 0.98%. In fact, 0.89% of the federal budget. 0.89%, not even 1%. Out of the 17 trillion, the National Assembly has 128 or 130 billion. And therefore, for me, I think given the right time, this kind of funding is not good for the National Assembly's development or for the Parliament to develop. There are so many things that the committees of the National Assembly are supposed to do that they cannot do because of lack of funding. But maybe because of the economic situation our country is in, then everybody should have a share. The bulk of the money goes where? Goes to the executive arm of government. You have states, 36 and FCT. You have 774 local governments. So it's not only a federal thing alone when we are talking about cost of government. You look at the states, the number of people who are political appointees in the states. What can you do with that figure? You look at the local government system, even though local government system is almost comatose now. But you know where the problem is? The multiplicity and duplicity of agencies of government. Today, you have maybe around 750 or 800 agencies, parastatals of the federal government. Many of them have outlived their usefulness. It is time, I agree, that the government, the federal government, and the states, maybe with the federal government taking the lead, to look at all these parastatals and streamline them.
Your Excellency, one of the very interesting bits of analysis you sometimes get in the public domain is the idea that when major problems come up, whether they're related to the economy, whether they're related to insecurity, that there seems to be a bit of a tendency, maybe you can correct this impression if you don't agree, but a tendency to for lawmakers to introduce new institutions at a time when we're talking about cost of governance, we're talking about how do we reduce recurrent expenditure. You get a lot of these proposals to create one new agency or the other to deal with very specific problems, when in fact there may be opportunity to just refine existing institutions through legislative intervention. What are your thoughts about that idea?
Just like yours, but in a different way. You see, I was careful when I said some of these agencies, the parastatals, were created in 1960 or 1965 or 70s to address specific and unique challenges of governance. That does not mean that you will not create agencies to deal with some new issues. Okay, tell me, if you want to deal with climate change, what do you need to do? Did you ever produce any agency to deal with climate change? For example, just an example. Never. Because climate change was not an issue in the 60s. Not at least not in Nigeria. So now you need an agency to deal with that. We need to be reviewing and updating our agencies. Okay, these ones that were established in the past, is this one still relevant? No, it is not. Take it out.
So as one goes, one comes.
Yes, yes. Because this is what you have to do. In fact, you must do that. So I don't think there is anything wrong for members of the National Assembly, or indeed the executive arm of government. And by the way, this thing is not only members of the National Assembly. Even the executive sends requests that they want establishment of agencies. Recently, the PIB produced agencies. The Nigerian Upstream Regulatory Commission.
Though some would say that that's a fallout of existing agencies.
But is it a new agency? For example, I'm telling you that you establish these agencies to address specific situations.
Right.
So as you establish new ones to address emerging or new agencies and new challenges, you should be reviewing the ones that you have already, whether they are all still important for you to address governing issues or they have outlived their usefulness. And I also agree with you to some extent that you can, instead of setting up a new one, look at something that is close or similar and amend it. But definitely, some would have to be completely new because the challenges are essentially new challenges.
The following landmark legislation items and institutional reform measures undertaken by the Ninth National Assembly cut across multiple sectors and include, but are not limited to, the passage of the Deep Offshore Production Sharing Contract Act Amendment 2019. This law saves the nation $2 billion in annual deep offshore production royalties, which had been lost yearly since the turn of the millennium due to its non-amendment by successive assemblies. The final passage of the decades-long delayed Petroleum Industry Act 2021 provides new fiscal, regulatory, and incentive-based frameworks for investment attraction and holistic sectoral reform in dealing with issues confronting host communities, amongst others. In the economic development sphere, the Ninth Assembly passed consecutive finance acts in successive years, which provided decades-neglected tax laws with new updates to localize globally standardized tax rates on digital companies, capital gains, and large industry, all while providing tax exemptions for millions of Nigerian micro, small, and medium-scale enterprises to spur growth and job creation. By internal reform, the Ninth Assembly has recorded 3 consecutive January to December budget cycles for the first time in Nigeria's history, and has achieved a record new average of between 92% and 100% budget implementation, with 100% achieved for the first time ever in 2020. This is markedly increased from the 57% average budget execution recorded under the 8th Assembly, with the new budget cycle annually providing 4 complete quarters of predictable cash releases to contractors. More labor, more vending, and more cross-sectoral construction has allowed Nigeria to exit recession rapidly. More insight into these and other measures next week on Part 2 of this behind-the-scenes look into the 9th National Assembly. One of the hot issues in the public domain today, of course, as we're moving into the 2023 general election season, of course, is the Electoral Act Amendment. What can you tell Nigerians about the level of synergy and communication between the National Assembly and the federal executive around getting that finally signed into law?
Well, let me say that the Electoral Amendment Bill, Electoral Act 2010, number 6, Amendment Bill was one of the major legislative agendas of the 9th National Assembly in both chambers. And because it's something that has been so contentious and yet so important, and inevitability if you must have a reformed electoral environment in Nigeria, we prioritize it so highly that we gave it sufficient time, and we worked very closely with the executive agencies that we needed to work with, like the INEC, and of course civil society organizations and non-governmental organizations and so on. So we have worked so hard, and of course it's known to all Nigerians that when we passed it initially, Mr. President wrote back to the National Assembly to raise some observations, and there were genuine observations. And the National Assembly, in return, very expeditiously worked on those observations, and we worked on the appropriate clause, I think clause 84. And today, the bill is with the executive. It was sent to Mr. President for his assent last week. Time is of essence. There is need for the executive to really work on it as fast as possible, because what we want is for INEC to start working with this bill when it is signed into an act. And if INEC is saying the presidential and National Assembly elections will hold on the 18th of February 2023, then by the 18th of this month, you will be 1 year away from that. And probably, I don't know, I'm not too sure about that, but probably if you go beyond 18 without signing that bill into a law, then there could be some fresh challenges. I don't know. So I think we should all rally around to get this bill assented to. It's going to be one very important legacy of this administration.
The Nigerian people have been inundated with claims in the public domain, particularly from some sections of the political opposition, that the 9th National Assembly under your leadership is something of what they call a rubber stamp. What do you make of those claims in view of the kind of synergy you've been working to create between the legislative arm and the executive arm of government in this country?
President Muhammad Buhari is one president, as far as I know, that does not interfere with the workings of the legislature. And I can tell you that I never had a session with President where he would say, this is what I want you people to go and do in the Senate or in the National Assembly. He made his observations known to us in the Electoral Act Amendment after we sent it. So if he was the type that normally intervene or call us say, go and do this, go and rubber stamp this. He would have told us that thing earlier. Do you understand what I mean? He would have told us what he observed much earlier.
What he wants.
What he wants. But he doesn't. He will tell you, this is your own area, go and do your work. And we do. And we disagree. In a few times we had the disagreements coming out public. Maybe when he said the budget, even in 2021, he complained about the budget, but he signed it. Let me say this. They want to partner with us in the legislature. They want to see things done to make Nigeria better. Because we should be in a hurry at all times. Progress. We should be extremely hungry of progress. And we are, because we need to catch up. So, when people say the Ninth National Assembly is rubber stamp, you see, the good news for them would be, say, okay, because we are called rubber stamp, we should fight with the executive arm of government and let the consequences swallow Nigeria. The bad news for them is they are mischievous. They don't mean well for Nigerians. If that is all that somebody will call us and make that tag our price, but we have been able to make the budget cycle different. And this budget cycle, January to December, is what is responsible for this economy to come out of recession. One of the channel TV programs was saying, the National Assembly padded. They said, this same man was saying we're rubber stamp. How can rubber stamp product be a padded product? Because if it's padded, then it means that it is not rubber stamp. But you see, we are politicians. Most of those who are orchestrating this are people who are not happy that they are not part of the show. But for us, our commitment to our people, our commitment to our constituents and this country will be our driving force that say and call us anything. At the end of the day, we want to be proud members of this National Assembly that have come and have worked for our contribution to national development and national growth and stability.
The Senate President recounts how his early parliamentary experience has influenced his tenure at the apex of legislative power.
You know, incidentally, I've been serving the National Assembly for a while. I participated in the 2000 in the 1999-2003 Assembly. That's the first session of the Fourth Republic when I was in government. And I witnessed firsthand the consequences of a fight between the executive and the legislative. Then we had a president who once said the legislature was an unnecessary appendage. It means we were just wasting the time of the executive. For 4 years, nothing happened. Of course, it was a fight. We considered that to be fight for independence at that time, because if the chair of the country said he didn't believe in the legislature, then you will have to fight for your space that the Constitution created for you. Then, of course, 2003, 2007, there was a change of style by the executive arm of government. The executive realized that they needed to work with National Assembly. It was not an unnecessary appendage. And the performance of government then was better between 2003 to 2007. For the first time in 2005, the budget was implemented by 50% of thereabouts for the first time. The previous ones, nothing. And of course, who lost? The country, the people, citizens. In 2007, we had a chair who didn't antagonize legislature. President Yarabo. He did. He was doing his work, the executive was doing his work, we were doing our work. But of course, it's a matter of style. The Eighth Assembly, maybe for whatever reason, chose to. There was so much misunderstanding, so much between the executive and the legislature. I was the Senate leader, so I was part of it. Even though I didn't believe in some ways that certain things happened. But of course, you need at all times to have the legislature and the executive working together. And when I say working together, it doesn't mean to agree together all the time. No. There are times that the executive will not agree with the position of the legislature, but it has to take that position. It doesn't have to agree with the position, but it's necessary because it's within the purview of the legislature to do whatever it is that they are not happy with. But the discomfort is the price that you pay. That egoistic tendency that passes through somebody's mind and say, no. It is either my way or no other. You are not yourself. I'm not. I'm alone here. By the grace of God, my colleagues voted for me to be Senate President. So my opinion doesn't matter. My personal opinion doesn't matter. The opinions of my colleagues are what matters. And the opinions of my colleagues, the legislature, will not matter like the opinions of genuine Nigerians. Those Nigerians who are waiting for government attention. And the same thing with the presidency. It's not the opinion of the president that matters, or the ministers. What matters, or what should matter to them, would be how Nigerians will be given a better life. And there's going to be a price for that.
Share your thoughts and constructive comments with us on the Eagle Eye Facebook and Instagram page. Next week on the program, we join the Senate President once again as we course through the National Assembly, engaging on issues that matter most to you in the concluding part 2 of this world-exclusive interview. Do join us. As I always do, I have enjoyed this time with you, and I thank you for your viewership. I look forward to your company as I host you once again next week at this same time on this network. Until next time, may God Almighty go with you, and as eagles, may we all soar and lift our nation high as we do.